Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Okay, so there's just so much buzz lately around anti-aging supplements, right? Especially the ones that claim to boost nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD.
Absolutely. You see folks like Brian Johnson promoting them, talking about slowing aging. It's everywhere.
Exactly. But the big question is, are they actually worth spending your money on? Particularly thinking about, keeping your muscles strong as you age.
That really is the key question. There's this widely held idea that declining NAD in our muscles is a major cause of that age-related weakness, that frailty.
Right, because NAD is important for cell energy, and levels do seem to drop.
They do. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is crucial for how cells generate energy, no doubt.
Yeah.
And yes, we generally see lower levels in muscle tissue as people get older. This observation kind of led to the hypothesis that if we just push those levels back up with supplements,
Then we can turn back the clock on muscle aging.
that's been the hope, or at least the marketing pitch.
Okay, well, let's dig into that. We've been looking at some fascinating new research that actually challenges this whole idea pretty directly.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one.
We're focusing today on a study published in Cell Metabolism. It's from researchers over at the University of Copenhagen. And we've also got some insights from a health news piece covering it.
A solid study, definitely worth discussing.
So our mission here is to unpack this research. We want to figure out if this age-related drop in nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide in your muscles is really something you should be concerned about, or if maybe the hype around supplements is getting ahead of the science.
Let's get into the evidence.
All right, so this Copenhagen study, what exactly were they trying to find out?
Well, the researchers wanted to see what happens, directly, if you drastically reduce NAD levels, specifically in skeletal muscle, muscles we use to move, but in adult animals.
Okay, so not from birth, but later on.
Exactly. There was this gap in understanding. We know nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is important, generally speaking, but it wasn't clear just how low the levels have to fall in mature muscle before you see real problems like loss of function or faster aging.
So how did they actually test that? How do you lower NAD just in the muscles of adult mice?
They used some pretty clever genetic techniques. They created a specific group of mice where they could essentially switch off a key enzyme needed to make nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, but only in their skeletal muscles.
Wow, okay.
And crucially, they triggered this reduction after the mice were fully grown adults. This let them isolate the effect on mature muscle, avoiding any confusion with, say, developmental issues.
Got it. And how much did they lower the NAD levels?
Get this, by 85%. A massive reduction.
85%. That's huge. So what happened to these mice living with such low NAD in their muscles? Did they just become frail and weak?
This is where it gets really surprising. Despite that enormous 85% drop, the mice, well, they seemed fine.
Fine, like totally normal.
Pretty much. They had normal muscle size, their overall health looked good, they were just as strong, and their exercise performance, also normal. And this was throughout their entire lives.
Wait, even with exercise? No difference?
Essentially, yes. They didn't show any signs of getting weaker or aging faster than the control mice with normal NAD levels.
That really challenges the prevailing idea, doesn't it? An 85% drop is way more than the decline typically seen with aging.
Exactly. And they didn't just look at the surface level. They went deep, analyzing things at the cellular level inside the muscles.
What kind of things?
Things like gene expression, seeing which genes were turned on or off. They looked at protein levels, the function of the mitochondria, those cellular power plants.
Right, where NAD is supposed to be critical.
Precisely. They even looked at DNA methylation patterns, which can sometimes act like an age clock for cells.
And what did all that deep analysis show?
Remarkably little change. Across the board, gene activity, protein amounts, mitochondrial health, those methylation markers, the muscles with severely depleted NAD, look very, very similar to the normal muscles.
Okay, that's pretty compelling. But I thought the news report mentioned something about energetic stress during exercise. Was there anything there?
Yes, good point. They did observe that. When the low NAD mice exercised, their muscles showed signs of increased energetic stress. There were also some minor tweaks in how their muscles processed energy substrates.
So not completely identical then?
Not completely identical under stress, no. Given NAD's role in energy metabolism, especially in the mitochondria, it's maybe not shocking that such a huge reduction would cause some ripple effects when the muscles are really pushed hard.
But crucially, this stress didn't actually make them weaker overall or age faster in the long run.
That's the key finding. Those subtle metabolic changes under exercise stress didn't translate into any measurable deficit in overall muscle strength, endurance, or signs of accelerated aging throughout their lifespan.
Wow, okay. We actually have a quote here from one of the researchers, Associate Professor Jonas Trebek. He said, "Our results suggest that skeletal muscle can tolerate substantial nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide depletion without loss of function or accelerated aging." He adds, "This challenges the prevailing view."
It's a direct challenge, absolutely. And Sabina Chubanova, who did the hands-on research, basically echoed that. She emphasized that healthy muscle seems less reliant on high NAD levels than people thought.
And that even reducing NAD way beyond normal age-related drops didn't cause weakness or faster aging in their model.
Exactly. Her point was clear. These findings suggest the muscle itself isn't necessarily aging faster just because NAD levels go down a bit.
So let's talk implications. What does this mean for people considering or maybe already taking those NAD precursor supplements, specifically for muscle health?
Well, it certainly throws a wrench in the works for that specific rationale.
Yeah.
If your primary goal for taking these supplements is to combat muscle aging and frailty by boosting NAD, this study suggests that premise might be flawed.
Because the muscle seems to cope fine even with drastically lower NAD.
Precisely. The whole idea was NAD goes down, muscles get weak, so boost NAD. But this research indicates that the age-related decline, which again is usually much less than 85%,
Right. Much more modest.
that modest decline might not be the main culprit driving muscle aging after all. It looks like healthy muscle has a pretty robust capacity to function well even when NAD isn't at peak levels.
So maybe the resources, the money spent on these pills could be better used elsewhere for healthy aging.
That's definitely a point to consider. If boosting NAD isn't the magic bullet for muscle preservation, then maybe focusing on things we know work, like exercise, nutrition, other lifestyle factors, is a better investment for maintaining muscle function as we age.
Makes sense. Now, we should always talk limitations with any study. What are the caveats here?
Absolutely. First and foremost, this was a mouse study. Mouse physiology isn't identical to human physiology. So we need to be cautious about directly translating these findings to people. That's always limitation number one.
Okay, what up?
Second, they targeted NAD reduction only in skeletal muscle. Natural aging involves changes across many tissues and organs simultaneously. This study doesn't tell us about the systemic effects of NAD decline, only the muscle-specific ones in isolation.
And that energetic stress point you mentioned earlier, does that suggest maybe there are some negative effects, even if they didn't see overall weakness?
It's a nuance, for sure. It suggests that while gross function was maintained, there might be subtle metabolic vulnerabilities or inefficiencies under load. It doesn't negate the main finding about overall function and aging rate, but it does hint that extreme NAD depletion isn't entirely without any consequence at the metabolic level. It's an area future research could explore further.
Right, subtleties that might matter in specific contexts, perhaps.
Possibly. But again, in this comprehensive study looking at lifespan and overall function, those subtleties didn't lead to the expected decline.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway message for someone listening who's maybe been thinking about NAD supplements for their muscles?
I think the core message is that this robust study really questions the assumption that falling NAD levels in muscle are a primary driver of muscle aging. It showed remarkable resilience in mouse muscle, even with extreme NAD depletion.
Meaning that healthy muscle might just not need those super high NAD levels to function well and avoid premature aging.
That's what this research strongly suggests. The link isn't as straightforward or perhaps as critical as the supplement industry might lead you to believe, at least based on this evidence for muscle-specific NAD levels.
So maybe before you jump on the NAD supplement bandwagon, it's worth pausing. This research really prompts a reevaluation, doesn't it? Thinking about the bigger picture of healthy aging.
It absolutely does.
Where should your focus really be for maintaining muscle health as you get older? Maybe it's less about chasing a specific molecule like nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide.
And more about the tried and true strategies.
Exactly. What other parts of your lifestyle, your overall well-being, might give you more bang for your buck? It's definitely food for thought, encouraging a critical look at health trends versus focusing on a holistic approach.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.